Hello, students of Year 11 Legal Studies. How are you doing today? Hopefully it's good. I didn't give you any time to answer them because this is a video and you can't actually respond to me. Well, you can, but I wouldn't hear it, and you'd seem like a crazy person at home watching a video and talking back to it. So that's more a judgment on your lifestyle than anything that I'm doing. So today we're here to talk about 8C from Ed Rollo, if you're looking at your chapter in your textbook, about tribunals. It's going to kind of line up today, and then our next lesson we're going to look at the ombudsman and complaint bodies, which are also part of 8C. But firstly, let's just appreciate this random fancy PowerPoint template that I found to make this look a little bit nicer than those bland old PowerPoints that we had. Let's get into what we're going to be talking about today. So first up, what we're doing from the study design is methods to resolve a civil dispute such as tribunals, and the key skill for that is describing the institutions that resolve civil disputes. And so what we want to do is we want to identify and explain the roles of tribunals in resolving disputes and evaluate how effective they are by looking at their strengths and weaknesses. And so hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to explain the role of tribunals, can distinguish between different tribunals in Victoria, and can describe the role of VCAT in dealing with civil disputes. And as with all of our legal studies classes, we like to go off on tangents. So the first tangent we're going to go off on is based on the t-shirt that I'm wearing today. So I have this t-shirt here, and it's from my friend Steve, who goes by Monkey Steve. He was recently on Ninja Warrior and did well. So if you'd like to see a little bit about him, here's a link to his run on Ninja Warrior this year, and you can watch him and see how cool he is. He's very impressive. He's a very, very nice guy. Highly recommended. I'll also put the link below the video, but it's there if you need it otherwise. So tribunals, to get back to legal studies. A tribunal is a dispute resolution body that aims to provide individuals with a low-cost, efficient and speedy method of dispute resolution, and it gets power from legislation, which means that Parliament sets it through legislation, and therefore they have their power from that, and generally has expertise in particular subject areas. So we're going to look at a few of the different ones and what they particularly specialize in on the later slides. And tribunals are an alternative to courts and are often more appropriate for settling smaller and less complex civil disputes. It's good because often it means that there's going to be a more relevant solution for that problem and more expertise involved in solving that problem. So some of the Australian tribunals that we have, so we've got things like, we've got two separations here, so we've got the Commonwealth Tribunals and Victorian Tribunals. Obviously Commonwealth being Australia-wide and Victorian being within Victoria, which Victoria is, we're basically our own country right now anyway, with the fact we can't leave the state because the borders everywhere are closed to us, but that's a different issue. And so with Commonwealth Tribunals, we've got the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, which reviews decisions made by the Commonwealth government bodies, such as the Australian Taxation Office or Passports Australia. I know you've read that, you're riveted by the sound of that. You don't have to worry too much about the details of that as long as you know what they look into. We've got the Fair Work Commission, which solves workplace disputes. This is a very common one to come up. There are a lot of workplace disputes that come up about whether people are having fair pay or they're having issues with workplace conditions being dangerous, unsafe, or harassment in the workplace. All those kind of things can go through the Fair Work Commission to be solved rather than going to court. There's the Native Title Tribunal, which determines native title applications from Aboriginal people. That's mainly about the fact that native title refers to the original owners of the land, and there was a bit of an issue, and saying a bit of an issue really undersells it because it was a serious issue where when white settlers came to Australia, we basically just took all of the land away and was just like, well, this is ours now and you don't own it. And so a lot of Aboriginal people through the Native Title Tribunal have been able to get their land back if they could prove that they occupied it beforehand. And then in Victorian tribunals, we've got the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, which is also known as VCAT, which we're going to look at in more detail on the next slide. It's going to be the main one that we look into. Is a very broad range of civil disputes, such as residential tenancy disputes. And then the Mental Health Tribunal, which protects people with mental illness to make sure they're not taken advantage of by others. So to look at VCAT in more detail, so the Victorian Civil and Administration Tribunal. VCAT is the largest tribunal in Victoria and has 4 divisions. The Residential Tenancies, which is the busiest division, Civil, Administrative and Human Rights. And VCAT handles over 85 different disputes each year and is led by a president who's a Supreme Court judge and vice presidents who are county court judges. And the main aim of VCAT is to be a low cost, what am I even talking about? A low cost an accessible and efficient dispute resolution body, which doesn't charge high fees to hear the disputes, that's pretty cheap, has locations across Australia, so there are many, tries to hear cases quickly, which is great for achieving access, has a less formal atmosphere than courts, which means that people are going to be less intimidated and more able to freely speak their mind during their case, and uses methods such as mediation and compulsory conferences between the parties to try and solve many disputes. This is great because it can solve a lot of disputes before they get to court, which means it's going to cost less for the people, it's going to be quicker, they're more likely to get a resolution, which is good for both parties, and it's very positive in that way. Also, expert people are helping them get to that solution, which is really, really great overall. And the main thing is this: you need to know that why it's a good option for solving disputes. So that low cost, the fact it's accessible, and the fact it's efficient, less formal in courts. They are very important things to be able to look at. And essentially, that's it for today. That's pretty quick, pretty simple overall. Next time we're going to be looking at ombudsman and complaints bodies in a bit of detail. Other than that, some 3-head roller questions for today. So if this is what's going to be, it's going to be Monday, I'm guessing. If it's not Monday, I'm going to look a bit foolish when I'm making you watch this, and then you'll judge me for it in the class post. But 8C, question 4, 9, and 11. And then on Monday, assuming it's Monday, we'll do some of the other questions when we look at ombudsman and complaints bodies. On that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will hopefully see you soon. Goodbye.